All of that pales in comparison to the profound, earth-shattering, groundbreaking, highly influential, and most important content of the next segment for you. The boys are back in town. The band is back together. Wow. My goodness gracious. Bobby Cavaco, president of SHOPO, a very good morning.
Good morning there, Rick. Great to be here. It's probably been, about 6 months now?
Well, it feels that way. Yeah. I've had 3 birthdays and 2 legal proceedings, so it's been quite a while. It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you, too.
Good to see you. Brother Steve Keogh.
Rick, great to be back. Boys are back.
Wow.
Always a pleasure to be here, Rick. Happy and grateful to be here with you and your listeners.
I am so glad you boys are back. Brother Mark Critcho. And by the way, I thought his wedding was fantastic. I just saw the videos that were posted. Mark,
take it easy.
Oh,
he looked phenomenal in that white dress, didn't he?
I just thought it was the cutest thing ever. Tap your mic there, brother, just to make sure.
What about now? How about now?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Morning, Rick. Bobby, Steve. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Happy Monday.
Wow. I don't even know where to start. I guess we could start with the Chicago Bears losing again. Those
Giants won.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, what are they? 8-2, 7-3,
7-2.
7-3.
7-2.
7-2. Week 10.
Something like that.
Bottom line is, I'm glad you boys are back. I'm just going to turn it over to start, just to get us caught up with what's been going on for the past several weeks, where we haven't had a chance to see each other, and then I'll jump into a couple of different pieces of topicality, if you will. Bobby Cavaco, how you been?
Good. A lot of stuff going on. We have police chief search on the Big Island continuing.
Mm-hmm.
I think they dwindled it down to half the amount of applicants are left, and then they're continuing the process. So we'll see how that goes. And everything with the other departments are still moving forward. We have a lot of arbitrations moving forward in different types of cases. So the work never stops.
Lots on the agenda.
Yes.
That continues. Gotcha. Brother Steve, how about you?
I was just thinking when Bobby was talking, Kenny and Bobby T were able to go in front of the Kauai Police Commission and share with the commission the results of the survey that we did about a month and a half ago now regarding what our members on Kauai felt about the department, their chief, and various other things.
Mm-hmm.
So we were happy about that. Bobby, you're looking fresh considering that you were over on the Big Island for the general membership meeting over there. How did that go? Good?
Yeah, it went very well.
What takes place at a general meeting? What is there an agenda that's set, or is it membership communicates with leadership? How does that work?
It's a pretty simple agenda. Just maybe give some information from the board, and then there's some various tables set up with different organizations like Hawaii Law Enforcement Credit Union, some other vendors that could offer services to our members, and then of course there's food, entertainment, and then door prizes.
Well, if you need me to come over and give away, call some raffle numbers, I'd be more than happy.
Well, Rick, you didn't know that you're gonna come over to the Honolulu general membership meeting. We're having that. You don't know that yet, but yeah, we're gonna have you stop by.
Oh, I'm ready. I believe. Yeah, yes, definitely.
Yeah, every county, Rick. We haven't done it with COVID and whatnot, but every county there's an opportunity for the memberships in the different county to come together and kind of have that fellowship,
Yes.
an evening together. There's a meeting, and then bring the family and just have a couple of hours where people can get together, catch up, do some union business, but really it's about camaraderie and fellowship.
Right.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Just hide the Michelob Ultra. That's all.
Don't worry. There's plenty where that came from. As a matter of fact, I'll put that cooler away a little bit later. Brother Mark, welcome back home. I know
Yeah.
you've been on the road.
Good to be here. I was in a nice red state of Florida. Went from my godson's wedding. It wasn't my wedding. Okay.
Oh,
Relax.
I'm
Take
sorry.
it
Bobby
easy,
Bobby
all right?
told me on the text it was yours.
Yeah. No. Anyway, it was really good. It's good to be in a nice red state of Florida, pro law enforcement state, nice pristine roads,
Wow.
infrastructure going in. It was nice. It was nice.
That was good.
But it's good to be back here. I just missed the hurricane, so
Oh, well, that's definitely
that's
a
the bad
plus.
part.
Definitely a plus.
Yeah.
We're at 7:13 in the morning already. We had elections, of course, as you know. Election day has come and gone. Here locally, tabulations are set. Membership in the House, membership in the Council, Congress, OHOP, etc. I'd like to just get your take because this has an influence on some of the issues we've talked about about the past year or so. I mean, and it's profound. Number one is bail reform that is just so top of mind because canvassing people in just conversation, when we talk about crime and public safety, that's the first thing people, what's going to happen on bail reform? What's going to happen on bail reform? And now with the state of Michigan, Illinois, rather, as we know, that is moving forward with blanket, no bail. Geesh, you know the copycats on the left of the big square building are probably going to take that same tack. Is there anything that you'd like to share with us, update us, conversations you've had, even maybe with membership, in regard to the looming question of bail reform?
There really hasn't been much to come up with that, but we assume that, like you said, bail reform is going to come up again. It's going to be a big topic.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's going to be interjected in that same discussion is the proposal for a new prison or a new jail. So I think between the two, based off of what is discussed, within the legislatures, then that'll push, whatever that'll raise the needle on which end they're going to go with. But that'll be definitely a discussion that'll come up.
Has there been any overtures from elected or representatives, Senate elect, maybe even the governor, that's been expressing some of the priorities they may have in seeking either your counsel or support?
The only one that we've gotten strong support was a bill that's going to be, I believe, introduced by Glenn Wakai for Farrington High School and getting a program in there for the high school kids where they really interact with HPD and police officers and kind of model a program so that that can be kind of like a first step for them to come into the profession, to see if they're interested in that. So there's a bill to actually make a program there to start it there, and then hopefully, if it's successful, we can branch it out to other schools.
Gotcha. Top of mind, fellas, when it comes to what's coming up.
Anyway, I don't see any change. I think they're going to try to push this bail reform again, but we just got to be on top of them, and the people need to wake up and make sure they call these offices and deny it. But they're going to push it. They're going to keep pushing it.
Prosecutor Steve Alm recently gave public commentary about now probationers, those in violation of probation, which are on top of other issues, posing a bit of a threat. Steve, out on the beat and with your colleagues, the encounters, do you get the calls to intercede and arrest or even seek out probation violators? Or is that more the sheriff's office? What's the AOR?
Sure. So if somebody violates, let me back up. If the officers in the different counties interact with somebody, depending on where the line of questioning goes, I know where I'm on the road, I'll always ask somebody, hey, are you on probation or parole? HPD will obviously retake people in on outstanding warrants. If a judge says, hey, you got to go back in, you got to go back in. But as far as parole and that kind of thing, there's a whole division on the state side that takes care of that. I also, Rick, too, just top of mind with the elections, some candidates SHOPO endorsed were successful, and some candidates were not. From a SHOPO standpoint, we wish Governor-elect Green and Lieutenant Governor-elect Sylvia Luke all the best. They have a huge responsibility, and obviously, like you alluded to earlier, if they would like to reach out to Bobby and the board for any type of opinions from where we're at on things, we'll always be there for them. As Mark said, Obviously, the election went heavily Democratic. Obviously, as a community, people may have gotten into positions that we didn't necessarily expect, or you might have your favorites, but at the end of the day, we need these people to do well. We need to try to come together. And I would just say this to all the candidates that came looking for a SHOPO endorsement. Maybe if we didn't endorse you, you said that you were pro law enforcement. Please show us that during your term in office, and let's work together. And if we didn't endorse you, don't hold it against us. We had to make the decision that we felt was best for our members. And at the end of the day, we all want to keep the community safe.
And there we have it. The SHOPO Hour is back. Once again, with Bobby, Steve, and Mark. We're going to take a very short break for primetime traffic. When we come back, yes, Waikiki, top of mind, and I'll tell you why after this. And we're back. News Radio 830 KHH with Bobby, Steve, and Mark. It is the SHOPO Hour. I'd like to get updates, if I could, what members are reporting in regard to Safe and Sound, in regard to the holding of those in contrary to immediate release due to our bail policies, to the point where recently defense attorneys were filing grievances and complaints for a 90-day hold and things like that. I'll just share anecdotally. I've seen video and photos, especially near St. Augustine's Church down in Waikiki, where it was rife with either homeless or ne'er-do-wells and damages and all that. Photos that have been shared with me now, clear. I mean, this is 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, which is usually prime time. What's the feedback of how Waikiki truly is now in regard to crime and presence, and have there been definite improvements?
Well, you're always going to have your crime in Waikiki. Let's face it, right? Everybody goes down there, right? And it's a lot of population in such a small area. However, yes, by St. Augustine's was horrendous. Cleaned up now. Mm-hmm. Why? Enforcement works, right? And we finally got prosecutors on board, judges on board, right, to keep them out, right? How many years we've been fighting for this, right? But enforcement works. People don't realize that. These politicians don't realize that. Oh, let them go. But let's see how long this is going to last. What's happening on the court side now? Okay, so they have to stay out. If they're violating it, what are the judges doing about it, right? We don't know that. So let's see what's going to happen on the judicial side now.
Yeah. Steve, Bobby?
Well, when you talk about St. Augustine, I was just thinking, I know they had meal time. I don't know if they did lunch and dinner, but that whole area there, they're kind of congregating, kind of like they did in Chinatown with River of Life. These people that are out on the streets, they kind of hang around these areas that feed them. And, not to say you shouldn't feed them, but I know what you're talking about with St. Augustine. I will say this, though. Those pavilions look a hell of a lot better, Mark.
Nice.
I drove down there. They look a lot
right.
better. And we've said this before. I mean, Waikiki, it's important to this state and to our community for several reasons. And to give somebody the ability to be half closed, sitting in their own fifis in the middle of the street and doing all kinds of stuff, we want to take care of them. But at the same time, there's an image and an optic to that gets broadcast throughout the world, and that's not going to help us.
There was a November 1st headline, HPD arrests at least 10 habitual offenders in Waikiki. And is this, as you mentioned before, enforcement ramped up? What facilitated the fact that now we have at least a public demonstration of that enforcement?
I don't know why they came out with that headline. I don't know if they need to make news, but we're doing that all the time. 10 is nothing.
But
habitual offenders.
But
right?
The release
Mm-hmm.
of those offenders, that they were there and now they're not.
Yeah.
And so is that going on all the time, that specifically targeting the ones with the sheets with multiple are
So
then extricated?
I guess that article was saying that maybe those are the ones that are geographically restricted. Okay, so if that gets them out, fine. But Steve, you could attest to this. You're a sergeant in the field. We're arresting habitual offenders daily, right? Multiple times, but they're getting release. But if they're going to arrest them and keep them out, good. But again, what's going to happen on the judicial side?
The arrest takes place. There's probable cause, but again, these individuals, for as whacked out as they might look, for as emotionally challenged as they might be, they know that there might not be consequences for this conduct, which is why they keep doing it until there's some teeth to, let's say, the punishment, or the judges and the prosecutors decide to look at the HRS and impose, if found guilty, impose a sentence within reason that's actually got some teeth, rather than just time served or whatever the case may be. Again, but as far as Mark's point, your point, habitual people get arrested all the time for that, especially in urban Honolulu. That's not anything out of the ordinary, And then but again, in order to get an arrest, we have to have somebody that's willing to prosecute. So it means the merchants are getting a little bit fed up, and that they actually want to give us a call, and they're not going to stand for their merchandise getting stolen or eaten or whatever's happening. So,
Yeah. Bobby?
Yeah, no, it's good to see that there are statistics coming out of that, because officers cannot really make a difference unless there's some kind of plan in place in order to address the situation. So actually be a good thing for maybe Prosecutor to maybe give an update on the situation and see how the program is going.
and usually, Rick, if I can just add this, with these habitual offenders, usually it's a combination arrest of usually a trespass too, because most times these individuals have stolen from the establishment previously or something like that, and there could be a scenario where they've been trespassed for 12 months from the property. They go back, they steal, and usually, from what I've seen, it's not just a shoplifting arrest or a theft arrest. It usually is tied in additionally with a trespass, where the individual came back to the property and shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Before we leave Waikiki, I want to acknowledge and ask the Waikiki business. Let me get the Waikiki Business Improvement Organization created fundraisers that have intended to benefit our officers, to help defray cost and expense, etc. I mean, they had a great event and made the donations. Do we have any other organizations that do so? And I know that, Cop on Top and some others, but just neighborhood organizations, do they have outreach for you guys? And your thoughts about the community assistance?
So the WBID, awesome organization. And then not only for HPD, but for the community. They're just an amazing, amazing organization. And I've worked with them very closely in Waikiki. Okay. And so what it is the merchants in Waikiki, in that area, give money to it, and that's how it exists. They tried to do it in Chinatown, but the merchants didn't want to kick in. So that's why they don't have it. Yes. Yeah, they refused to kick in. But it is an awesome organization. It's actually on the mainland a lot also. So I tell you, if they weren't in Waikiki, I mean, I don't know how it would look, honestly, because they do a lot of stuff really the city should be doing. But I can't say enough about them. They're really good.
Yeah. Final thoughts about Waikiki and community support? Bobby? Steve?
When you talk about community support, Rick, that's the backbone of a successful police department. Without community support, we can do our investigations to try to solve crimes and develop relationships with people that live in the community. But at the end of the day, the community has to want to have that relationship with their police department. The community has to feel that they're valued, and the community needs to feel that if they reach out to us, that they're going to be heard. So I would say that community involvement is essential to the successful operations of a police department.
And on that note, we're going to take our bottom of the hour news break with Bobby, Steve, and Mark. In today, the SHOPO Hour has returned. Once again, welcome back to SHOPO Hour, where we connect with Bobby, president of SHOPO, and Steve, Vice President of SHOPO, and Brother Mark, retired police major with over 68 years of service.
Oh, take it easy with it.
Is that 68, 30, 28?
Feels like 68.
And there we go. There we go. There was an acknowledgement in there somewhere. Practical things. The city instituted, along with the state, the red light camera, the prototypical testing that's taking place. One of the main intersections was Vineyard and Palama. There were reports in a 1 month period of time of 156 violations of that one intersection. 2 cases, I understand, actually were involved with collisions, and they were caught on camera. Bobby, I'll turn to you. On the street, what does this mean for our officers? What additional work is it for HPD, if any?
The additional work would probably come actually from the traffic division, having officer assigned to review each and every violation that comes in, and then to authenticate it, whether it is a violation or if it's not, to take a look at all the facts and circumstances, and then move it forward if it is, and if it's not, then dispose of it appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, there's really no other additional work that's imposed upon the officers other than that, work product itself.
Yeah, it's still under a warning system. There's no issuances yet, but when it happens, I think it's like $48,000 or so.
And it gets sent to the registered owner.
Yeah, for that violation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the of course, not the operator.
Yeah.
So
We've had a spate of, again, getting back to traffic issues. We get calls quite a bit. Folks have concerns about corridors that are fairly obvious. One that reaches out to Kahala, near Kahala Mall in that stretch. H3, of course, comes up quite a bit, and now even the Poly. With all the construction and all of this, traffic concerns. On the beat, do you hear that as well? And what concerns you about traffic at large? Because road rage is kind of on the rise.
yeah, it's prevalent. It's prevalent in our community. As long as they keep developing this community on this tiny island, the traffic's it's only going to get worse. There's only so much room that we have. We don't have the luxury of a mainland city where there's room to expand, room to add lanes, build over, different types of overpasses and whatnot. But the more people you add, the more you develop, the more congested it gets, the more incidents you have.
Is there any feasibility? Because what's often is, why can't HPD patrol those areas that people cite?
And that's probably going to be a common thing that's always asked. The police cannot be everywhere at any single moment. We're facing a staffing shortage, and traffic enforcement is just one of the things, one of the 850 things that that officers in the police department do. So it's not to minimize the attention that the community is speaking up about it, but when those concerns come up, and we understand that they do come up a lot during Chief Logan's time here. So and he properly forwards it to the right through the right avenue, and then it gets addressed. So
yeah, how are we doing on staffing? Have we seen an increase of men and women in uniform now, or are the recruitment classes still a little mellow, or how are we doing today?
Well, as far as the recruiting, the department has really put a large effort, into trying to bring more people in, having more classes but less amount of people in there to give the more individualized attention. But what really is going to make it hard for us to make headwind is that the nationwide shortage. The start of the Department of Law Enforcement that's going to actually be up and running January of 2024. They're already starting to heavily recruit for those new positions for the State Department of Law Enforcement. So that's going to put a little twist in the amount of people that we can recruit, that the police department can recruit.
What caught my attention was when we first started was work schedules. I know that's prototypical again, but there's news of the day that even Chick-fil-A, they are going in some to a 3-day work week. There are many companies, corporations that are employing a 4-day work week as we speak, and many more probably following suit. Has there been any indication that this will be a department-wide for your members on this type of work schedule?
There hasn't been no indication yet, but I know that the department, there's a scheduled meeting conferred this week with the Honolulu chapter board, and I believe that's on the agenda to be discussed to see where the department stands with that.
Gotcha. Brother Steve, jump in.
Regarding the 312 schedule specifically for Honolulu, I can tell you, Rick, our membership is really asking Chief Logan's administration to share with us if they're going to adopt that. Officers, they have families, and that is top of mind right now. I'm glad you brought that up. I get asked that question multiple times per week. Hey, Steve, where are we at with the 312? So we're looking forward to Chief Joe and his team coming together with Nick Schlapak, the Honolulu chair, and his board. And whether it happens or it doesn't happen, let the membership know so they can plan. Because something like this, you don't want to give 30 days notice. You want to give as much notice as you can. So if there is a change, that officers can make the appropriate arrangements without any undue stress. And then I just have to bring this up, Rick. I was thinking about this whole red light camera thing. I had just come to Honolulu. I think this was in 2006 when
van cams.
Right. So I don't think that went over well.
Like a fart in a quiet church.
I was going to ask.
Is exactly how popular that
Quote
was.
for you.
And I think it's important. I think it's important for your listeners to understand too that Honolulu police officers are not going to be monitoring those cameras. This is something this isn't an HPD thing. Perhaps HPD made some injections as to where the cameras go. And I know that when I was traveling in Phoenix, what I found with these cameras is that people were slamming on the brakes at the yellow. And and I hope the cameras are put in for the right reasons, because obviously I think it could go either way. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's not. Where's the money? Why is it done? Is it done as a money grab? Is it done as a safety? I mean, I don't want to be cynical. But then I often wonder, obviously the cameras take pictures, and as to you were saying, Bobby was saying that it goes back to the registered owner of the vehicle. And I remember seeing an article in the paper, Rick, where it's going to be like, I want to say the plan over time is to roll it out to what, 10 or 12 different intersections?
Absolutely.
It's here. So we'll see. Is it going to be a deterrent? I'm sure. I just hope that it doesn't create more of a safety issue than the whole reason as to why it was technically put in. Because sometimes when people get in those areas, they get weirded out. They don't make the right decisions. They stop too early. They don't want to get caught midway. So we'll see. But I will tell you this, not to ramble. I think it might be effective for those people that think it's okay to block the intersection on the red light, and then, traffic. When you talk about traffic and traffic flow,
right?
People look at it as, we'll see people running the red light. I hope it prevents people from blocking the intersections during peak hour traffic, not allowing the traffic that's going east, west, north, or south, whatever, to actually move. So we'll see.
Yeah, back in the day, we did constant analysis. It was driven by then Representative Joe Suki from Maui. That was just berating and pushing. And then we figured out contractually the state ultimately was going to profit greatly from those efforts. There are cases on the mainland where the synchronization of the lights, the intervals between yellow and red, had been manipulated in order to achieve all of that. So theoretically, we're being assured that contractually the vendor receives a flat fee. So there's not a vested interest in an increase or to boost the numbers up, and that the technology has been on the uptick to be more accurate. But it is the registered owner where people are having an issue, because if someone's driving your car, sure, they should go ahead. They can borrow your car, but if they do the violation, then you're responsible, which means that you'll have to go after the individual who made the infraction. That's where people are getting a little.
Did they have any public? I'm just curious. Was there any public
Oh, yeah.
discussion on that
Yeah.
prior to this coming out? There
Yeah.
was. Okay.
Wasn't very well publicized, but it
Okay.
was.
Oh, okay.
But there was.
And I think
without
that
a
was an
doubt.
issue with the last cameras. They were going after the registered owners, right? And the courts are throwing a lot out because who do you know it was driving, right?
Yeah.
So
And then they had the photos when you were going through.
yeah,
the intersection. But the van cams, I called them the tally van
yeah.
at the time. Unbelievable.
But I mean, if the camera system isn't put into place correctly, it could be a good thing. But who's monitoring it, right? Like you say, the synchronization and all that.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, we, like Bobby was alluded to, we can't be every place when there's a complaint, right? Especially with traffic. And for the short staffing that we're in, calls for service are first, right? And I think with the short staffing, the things that's suffering is the proactive enforcement, because the officers just don't have the time to do it.
So I came up with this thing that I thought would not solve, but at least help. I know when I'm driving, and wherever I am, wherever I'm going, H1, H2, whatever, and I see an officer, I immediately check my action. Am I doing all right? Am I speeding? Am I okay? All right, be cool. And I've always maintained, you take a vehicle with the blue lights on, park it on the side in different intervals, so that at least there's the presence that will at least have people maybe check themselves at the very least. And then people would say, well, it's predictable. No one's in. Occasionally have an officer in it. So you drivers don't know. They know there's a presence. Is it manned or is it unmanned? And maybe that could help with things. It's speeding, I get. It's the dangerous driving. It's the jumping in and out and cutting people off while speeding.
So years ago, when I was on the road,
Yeah.
many moons ago, we actually did that.
You did?
Yes, we did.
And?
Yes. I don't know if it worked,
Well, no.
but we did do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like you say, it can't hurt. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way, right?
Amen. 7:48 in the morning already. Really? You can stay another hour? Great. Okay. The SHOPO Hour is back. Bobby, Steve, Mark, and taking your calls. As a matter of fact, Jim from Mililani, you'll be first when we return. Welcome back, everybody. In the waning moments, it's already 7:52. Time flying by, as always, with Bobby, Steve, and Mark. Let's go to Jim Mililani. Thank you, Jim, for your patience so very much.
Hello?
And Jim in Mililani, you're on with the fellas. Good morning.
Oh, thank you, Rick, for taking my call.
Sure.
Well, first of all, I plan on driving further and avoiding that stoplight. And my questions are, will this add points to your driver's license because you own the car? And will it increase your insurance?
Interesting question. I personally don't know of what the implications would be. I guess it would be you have to have, I would imagine it would.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a moving violation.
Yeah.
Well, just to free think it for a second here.
Yeah.
If the citation is issued to the registration of the vehicle and the court technically does not know who the operator of the vehicle is, I don't know how it would be assessed to the driver's license.
So in other
Unless
words,
I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Because if it's assigned to the license plate and the registration and the registered owner, there's a scenario where the registered owner could not be driving the vehicle. With that scenario in play, I don't see how it could be assigned to the driver's license. Similar maybe to a parking ticket where the parking ticket goes to the registration. So for the way I'm getting it, if it's not tied in with the license, and to Bobby's point, it is a moving violation, but the way they're doing these cameras, I can't see it going on a person's driving abstract because the courts aren't going to know who's driving. It's going to be just the vehicle's registration.
Because then you would
I think
penalize.
that's a question for the insurance company, who your carrier is, right? I mean, knowing insurance companies, hey, you're the owner of the car. Even if you weren't driving, you lent it out, you're responsible. So I don't know.
Do we even do points anymore on licenses? I don't even. I've never encountered. I'm not sure of how that works anymore. But
I don't think the state of Hawaii is keeping track of that on the license.
yeah, but that was a good point, though. Bottom line, thank you very much for calling, Jim, because the legal aspect, I can't believe. I don't know how that would be enforceable, constitutionally, be enforceable. It is 7:55 in the morning already, just about moments away from the top of the hour. Mark Critchie, I'm going to start with you. Thoughts, ideas, something we may have covered or did not cover you'd like to bring up?
No, I'm a blank. I'm just still getting back in our time zone. So good to be back with you boys.
Amen.
And looking forward to next week.
Amen. Brother Steve?
I'm with Mark on this one. I'm happy to be back in studio, Rick. I'm always grateful and happy to be able to talk with you and your listeners about everything, because the whole reason for the show is to make the community feel that they're connected with some officers that wear the uniform, and we can share with the community about, the good that the men and women do in the community. So I'm glad to be back. It was 2 weeks off. I know you're going to be gone a little bit in December.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
well deserved with the travels, and I guess we'll pick it back up January.
Yeah. January 25. I should be back from vacation.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
No, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Cool. Bobby?
We're interested to see, now that the election is over, will there be any push or big discussion on whether the legislature will call a special session to address the Oburo decision. So I know Steve Ahm and the other prosecutors around the state are waiting for a writ to come down from the Supreme Court regarding that. So it'd be interesting to see what the position is of the legislators, because I think the House is ready to go with a special session, but the Senate not so much. So
Yeah, that's been languishing,
yeah.
to be honest. And the word that I just, in the circle of people that communicate it, is there won't be. And they're going to wait for the session to begin. And if that's the case, there's no decision that could be affected before end of session, but that's May of next year. And during that entire time, in all honesty, not to go nuts, because I did quite a bit, should have been called immediately, without any delay, without any, but the ridiculousness that went on procedure, my opinion only, was a complete, utter, absolute disservice to this entire state, not just here in Honolulu, to the entire state. But I'm prayerful that it gets resolved as soon as possible. We have just a couple of minutes remaining. If I can bring up something that I saw in a news report, body cam violations due to an internal HPD audit. I want to make sure that we have the context of that, because once you hear violation, but it could be, what's the reality behind this?
The reality is that 95 violations that the department found really is, it's not to minimize it, but it is a number out of thousands and thousands of interactions and videos that are, just think about it. Every time somebody calls 911 and an officer gets sent, essentially the body cam turns on. So you multiply that by 3 days, 3 shifts per 24-hour day times 7 days a week. There's a lot of footage.
Yep. Yes, Steve.
I saw the police commission where HPD leadership was testifying, and I think what would have been helpful, to Bobby's point, is I think what was missing was the total number of activations, period. 95 violations out of 20,000 activations? out of 10,000 activations. I think that's, to your point, the context. Obviously, we want to try to get it perfect. But again, it's all relative, right? If it's 95 violations out of 150 things, then we have a problem. But if it's 95 out of 7,000, 10,000, and to Bobby's point, we're talking in the thousands, Rick. So I thought that's something where maybe the public wasn't given a totality view.
True. And that's why I'm glad that you fellas had a chance to address it.
And with those 95 non-activations, what was the reason behind it? There might have been a valid reason why they were not activated.
Gentlemen, next week. Can't wait.
Looking forward to it.
Bobby, Steve, Mark, thanks so very much, fellas. Thank you.